everyone!
Hi.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the GirlyPop TV podcast. This is your co-host, Blindfoldhero, and
Koolkayak.
hello. So
Hello,
today we have a
hello.
special Valentine's Day episode for you. I know at time of recording, it's already like 3 days past Valentine's Day,
I
but
know.
hey, better late than never, right? But we're
Yes.
gonna be talking a little bit about relationships and like and don't like, and I'm gonna talk a bit about my weekend trip as well. So yeah. Well, first let me ask you: did you have any Valentine's Day plans or activities? And if so, what did you do?
So it's funny because I had Galentine's plans throughout the
Ooh,
weekend,
hmm.
but each one of them failed. Like they just
Oh,
ended
don't
up
love that.
yeah, they ended up just not working out. Like the plans just got mixed
Arr.
up, people got sick. So it just didn't happen this weekend, but honestly, I probably needed to just like do my own thing and like have like a movie night to myself. That's what I ultimately ended up doing on the
Okay,
actual Valentine's Day is I did a movie night with myself, which I feel like I needed. It was really nice.
that's so cute. What movie did you watch?
P.S. I love you.
Okay, I haven't heard of that, but sounds like a
it's
Valentine's Day movie.
it's like an early 2000s romantic sad movie. It's one of my like older faves. Yeah, that movie hurts. It's a sad
Wow.
movie.
I've never seen it. I'll watch it when I'm in my feels one day.
it's it's very cute but
hmm
sad.
That seems nice though. It's nice to find comfort in being alone, which we'll talk about later on this episode as well.
But yeah, how was your Valentine's Day?
It was pretty good. So on the actual day of popcorn, my partner and I spent it with her cousin and my friend. So we weren't really alone together. I feel like we don't really celebrate Valentine's Day together often because for us it's kind of like a commercialized holiday to get chocolates and spend money on stuff when you know you should be loving your partner or other people in your life every day of the year. But yeah, so we went to DC this weekend for an anime convention. And by we, I mean I went to the anime convention and Popcorn just hung out with her family in DC. Because she's not really like a cosplayer or anime fan. But I went to Katsucon. It was in DC and it was so fun because it was my first anime convention in a really long time. And I used to go to anime conventions all the time in high school. Like I would go to them I
Oh,
think like 3-4 times a year. I had a group of high school cosplaying friends, and we went to anime conventions all the time. And after I went to college, I kind of stopped doing that just because I got so busy with, college. But uh, I've been wanting to get back into cosplaying and going to cons, and it's been really fun. So Katsucon, well, it was my first time ever in Katsucon, and I dressed up as Luffy, the main character from the anime One Piece. And I've
amazing
been watching.
cosplay, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you guys can see the pictures on Instagram. I'm gonna post a few reels as well. It was really fun because I went alone. So it was my first time going to a convention alone. And I met up with someone from my community for the first time ever in person. It was so amazing because I've known this person for almost 2 years, and she's actually a mod for both Discord and Twitch. But I've never met her in person before, so it was my first time meeting her. So it's always so exciting to meet someone you know online in real life. It had a
Mhm.
similar feeling to when I met you in person for the first time because I'm just like, this person actually exists in real life. Like they're a real human being. They're not just a username on a screen. So
Yeah.
it was very awesome. And then I met a lot of her friends as well, and they're all content creators. So that was so amazing. I feel like recently there's been a lull in my passion for content creation. Like, I try to post reels and TikToks every day, but recently it was becoming a little bit like a chore. Like I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Sometimes I post things that I don't even really like. So
Yeah.
I feel kind of tired. I haven't told anyone about this yet, but I felt kind of tired, making content Like, why am I doing this? And I've been losing a lot of followers recently. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm losing followers. I'm just posting this for, like, who am I posting this for? Like, I feel like I didn't really find happiness through making all this content. So I think Katsucon really invigorated my passion and love for content creation. I met so many new people, a lot of whom were actual content creators, and it's so exciting to be with people who share the same niche passions as me, especially if a lot of those people enjoy being in videos or they just enjoy making content in general. And we can have a whole nother like content creation episode where I talk more in depth about this. Lately I've been feeling a little tired of content creation. So it's so refreshing to be around people who are like-minded as me in terms of creating content, making TikToks, and making reels. Because I feel like a lot of my current IRL friends are all normies, and don't get me wrong, I love them so much. But they just don't like get it, if you know what I mean. Because like whenever I ask like my friends or even Popcorn to film like a TikTok or a reel for me, they'll do it because I'm their friend, but they always view it as a chore or like a favor. So it's refreshing to hang out with people who actually enjoy filming content and they like understand like the brain rot that is TikTok. For example, I just met all these people at the convention on Saturday, and I asked if they wanted to be in my TikTok, and they were so honored and happy that they could be a part of my video. Like after, like, and during the video, there's a lot of technical issues where like the music, stopped playing in the middle of the video, or like I didn't get the filter right. Like there were a bunch of issues, and we had to like do a bunch of takes over and over. So I felt really bad that they were like waiting on me. And I was just like, thank you so much, guys, for taking like 40 minutes to be in my TikTok. And they were so happy. They're like, no, thank you for allowing us to be in your TikTok. They're like, we're so honored to be in your video. And I'm like, thank you. I've never felt this way before. So it was so interesting to be with people who like were excited to be in my video instead of just treating it as a favor that they were doing for me. I think I've forgotten how amazing it is to hang out with other content creators, because I think my only real content creator friend is you. I don't really have any other friends who do content, so they don't really understand it. And all of them not just make like shorts on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, but they all stream. They're all Twitch streamers, and they all like go to TwitchCon as well. Alongside different anime conventions. So they all talked about how they all met each other on Twitch, and they all cosplay together and go to cons as groups together. And I'm like, wow, I really want to make more content creation friends. Like I want to meet new content creators and make content with other people. So Katsucon really invigorated that spark for me and made me feel like I'm going to start streaming and creating content more and more. And this event just reminded me of how much I love making content. And it also kind of makes me want to stream even more. And I realized that, streaming and making content is not really about the actual content. It's about the people, the community that you find through content. And also I've realized through this, I want to make more content that's not just K-pop, because right now my main content is like kind of like Twice and K-pop related. And I've always been kind of scared to, post different kinds of content, because every time I used to post like anime or other content in the past before, I used to get a lot of unfollows because people, don't want to see that stuff. They followed me for K-pop, they followed me for Twice, they don't want to see other stuff. So I feel like I've been kind of like, held hostage by my follower count, because every time it goes down, I'm like, okay, I should stop posting this. But now I've come to realize I just want to post what I want. Like, I care a lot about my follower account, but I'm trying not to care about it because it, loops me into this kind of like toxic mental health state. So one of my goals is to try to not care too much about my follower account. And, if people are already unfollowing me now, for no reason, then why not just post whatever I want? So I want to start posting more anime, maybe cosplay reels. So I'm gonna post one tomorrow. Excited for that. I can talk more about like, content creation, pressure, and
we
followers
should have
in
an
our content
episode for
creation
that.
episode. Yeah, but
For sure.
overall, Katsucon was really fun. So happy to meet all these new people and friends, and we all followed each other on Instagram. It was so cute.
That mean that you might go to TwitchCon, or
You know what? When I asked those new friends that I made what conventions they go to, they all said that they go to TwitchCon. and they all like cosplay at TwitchCon. And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't know, maybe I should go to TwitchCon.
Yes,
It would be so fun
please.
because I know you go to TwitchCon or almost every year you try
Almost
to.
every year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing with TwitchCon is that it's just on the other side of the country for me. And I
No,
think
that's
it's
fair.
gonna be in San Diego for the next 10 years, they said.
10? I thought it was
I
like
think
5.
so. I don't know. They signed for the San Diego venue for a really long time. But now that I actually have a job, maybe I can save up.
We'll see.
So
But
yeah,
it would be
that'll
awesome if
be
you can
really
go.
exciting. If I do go, we gotta make content
Oh,
together.
for sure. No
Yeah.
question. I love that you had such an amazing time and like got to meet people who are like-minded and who love the same things that you love. Like that's like exactly how I felt when I was at TwitchCon too. It made me
Yes.
feel even more invigorated and rejuvenated when it came to content and just like now that you just like meet more people, it gives you another side to your content too. I don't know how to explain that. Like cuz like what you said about how you're scared to get out of your niche, and I feel like the right people will stick around, and the people who leave were meant to leave in the first place
Yeah.
because
That's
the
so true.
people who stay is for you and who you are as a person versus what you just provide for them. Does that make sense? So I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
so true.
slow burn type of love kind of energy when it comes to your content. I feel like this is probably the a good route for you.
For sure. I always feel demoralized when I see my follower count dropping because I post
Mhm.
different content, but sometimes I just need to tell myself that it doesn't matter if other people unfollow me. The real ones
For
will, but
sure.
it's still hard to see that number drop. It's all about the numbers. The numbers are
No, I
terrible,
get that.
but
I
we
get
can
that.
talk about that in the content creator
Yeah,
episode.
we'll have like a more
Yeah.
thorough
hmm
one, but for sure. I'm
Um,
glad you had fun though.
So that
Yes.
was my Valentine's Day weekend. So let's dive in a bit about relationships. What are kind of like your red flags and green flags for relationships? And not just romantic ones, but also platonic or any relationship.
I wrote notes for red flags, beige flags, and then
Oh,
green
beige flags.
flags.
I should have done beige flags too. I totally didn't think about that.
I kind of focus primarily on romantic slash dating, but I think these also kind of apply with my friendships as well.
hmm
So some of the ones that I have is like a lack of consideration. So in a way, it's like being disrespectful or entitled to your time, not understanding, not unwilling to communicate, or like I there were some that were like specific. Like I'm not one who likes self-degradation humor or commentary, to be honest,
Mm.
especially in my romantic in relationships or dating relationships. Personally, like I don't know. I feel like your words are magic spells that you place upon yourself and upon others. So if you're like talking shit about yourself, I feel like that bleeds more than we think it does. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if I would want that to date someone who talks about themselves poorly. Um,
Agree. I feel that a lot with like friends. Like
Me
if
too.
someone's like, oh my gosh, like, especially when they're trying to compliment you. For example, if they're like, oh my gosh, your art is so amazing. I could never be like you. I can't draw for anything. No, I've tried
Yeah.
drawing once. It looked
Like
horrible.
that subtle comparison. I actually know somebody who every time I'm talking about myself, or even when someone else is talking about themselves, like maybe it's an accomplishment, they're saying like, "Oh, I got this job and blah blah blah." But then their comment is, "Well, meanwhile, I can't find a job." Like that's the first comment
Yes.
you say when someone's giving good news about themselves.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree. I don't like I guess this is one of my red flags too, is that I don't like when you're talking about something or you're really excited about something achieved that you did, but then the other person just makes it all about themselves. So that's kind of different, but
Yes.
also the same.
Oh, not taking no for an answer. I think that's another big one that is a big red flag. If
Consent.
no yeah, if no is not a clear answer, then I feel like, what does that mean when, say, for instance, if this is a dating relationship, when things get more serious or when it becomes more intimate and there's a heart involved or, other things, that's when it's like can get scary and traumatizing, honestly. So that's like, no has to be respected.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just for any relationship.
Yeah.
I think one of my red flags is people that try to take advantage of your generosity. For example, if you pay for dinner one day and then another day, and then they just start to expect that you keep paying for dinner.
Yeah.
Or you be generous to someone by doing them some act of service, like maybe picking up their groceries, and then they just expect you to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Just because you
Yeah.
do something nice for someone doesn't mean you're gonna do it forever.
I think the friendships where that's a mutual understanding without it being said are much easier to
Yeah, for
navigate,
sure.
because having to explain entitlement to someone who is naturally entitled or just is used to that kind of behavior is very difficult. Another red flag that I have is when someone says they're just not a political person. Makes me feel, this might be more leaning towards beige, but it does make me feel like, well, like, isn't everything politicized? Like, sorry, I just like, it's all everywhere. And so that's what makes me feel kind of like, maybe that's a beige flag where it's like, I'm just gonna observe quietly about that
That's
one.
so relevant in today's politically divided society.
Yeah,
we see a lot of those these days.
Yeah, I feel like if someone takes the neutral route, it feels like a cop out, in my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it before, like maybe like a decade before when things were
Same.
more normal, but now I feel like it's just so like both sides are just so contrasted. It's hard to be neutral about that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and maybe for me it's like saying not political, because now, like you what you said, it's so much more relevant today than it was 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, like, that wasn't even really a topic that
yeah,
people would talk about, at
right.
least when I was growing up. And so nowadays, like, if someone were to say that, it would feel like, oh, you're not greatly affected by some of the things that are being
Yeah, they're
said, or some of the,
privileged.
maybe that's kind of like where I'm leaning towards, where maybe they're not aware of the privileges that they have. It's okay to have these privileges. I think it's the awareness that goes with it and the actions that you take afterwards. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
much more meaningful.
For sure,
Yar.
100%. One red flag I have is someone, I guess this is kind of general, but someone who's unsupportive, doesn't support your passion. For example, if I ever dated someone, I haven't, but if I ever dated someone that didn't want me to stream, I would be like, bye. Or
Yeah.
someone that just, isn't happy for what you're passionate about. It's okay if they don't understand it. I mean, popcorn doesn't understand half the things but you just gotta support it, be okay
Yeah.
that you're doing that.
Someone who will still cheer you on, even if they're like, I don't know what this is, but cool, makes you happy. I think jealousy or possessiveness is also a red flag for me. Okay, I'll just be real. I'm gonna just be real.
Okay.
I feel like I encounter a lot of suitors, if you will. And personally, like, I thought once I'm a loyal girly, I'm a loyal girly. And if that is a problem or causes possessiveness or jealousy to the point where it's harming themselves and myself, then I feel like, nah, this is not healthy. This is not it. I put language that hints or implies to undermining, disrespecting, instilling self-doubt onto
Ooh,
myself.
like microaggression.
Yes. Very subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then it makes you wonder how much they actually respect you as a person. Okay, for example, this was more of a friendship scenario. When I kind of made the decision to start acting and doing it more regularly, I opened up to a friend of mine, was once a friend of mine, and kind of like started talking about like, oh, I'm actually thinking about going this route and considering to just go all in and see what happens. And it was like super subtle, but the first thing that they said was, "Oh, okay. So like you don't mean like you're going to like be on HBO? Like what kind of acting are you talking about?" And I was like, "Well, no, like I want to be in anything, cuz this is just something I love doing, whether it's very small role or if I end up on HBO, that would be cool. And she was like, well, yeah, if you don't want to say that you're on HBO, you're going to be on HBO because that doesn't happen to everybody. Like something along those lines of just kind of like you're sharing a doubt you have, which could have been shared in another way. It's okay to be like, are you sure about that, girly pop? But in a different way. It was just the way that it was said where it was like, it just felt like they doubted me. And like for someone who is doing a big jump like this, I can't have people doubting me because then it makes me doubt myself and really makes me like crash out. And like I'm doing my diligence to, be able to sustain this and figure out what is truly my passion within this realm. And someone just like questioning it first rather than being like, that is so awesome, you're following your passions. Just a few questions. How is blah 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 blah, I don't know. Just like there's layers to that friendship too.
Like,
that
what
kind
if
of
you
made it
want
feel...
to be on HBO? What if that's your dream goal? And they're
exactly.
just like, you're not gonna want to be on HBO, right? But what if that's your like goal? Like, what?
Call me Delulu, but like I feel like if you want to be in the industry, if you want to be doing those things, don't you got to be a little Delulu to do those things?
Yeah, for real.
When everybody else is already going to be doubting you. That's why, like, to me, like instilling that doubt right away was already kind of like, but yeah, that one's kind of like a gray area kind of comment. I mean,
I think it's a red flag.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, part of me thinks that it could be understandable, but at the same time,
it's a red flag now.
So that's kind of an example of like instilling self-doubt in my abilities.
Yes. That's definitely a red flag. That's not a beige flag.
Thank you for validating me. Another red flag I wrote down is wanting a situationship or flat out says they're not ready for a relationship. Just run for the hills is what I wrote. For dating specifically. Yes. This one is just like maybe more of where I'm at personally. Like I personally wouldn't want to spend my time on situationships or involving myself with someone who's not ready for a relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially since we're getting older. Yeah. Ain't got no time for that anymore.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend my time doing that, please. Yeah.
Maybe if we were like 21
years old, okay, girl, go do your freaky thing, but otherwise, like,
I'm like, no, I'm too old for this.
The last one that I wrote is forgetting that I have allergies consistently. So
like the other person forgets?
Yeah. So it's okay if you forget like every now and then, because like, especially when I first got diagnosed, I was still figuring out my allergies. But like now, I make it very clear what I'm allergic to. And if that's like an ongoing forgetting thing, and this is probably more specifically with my dating, but for friendships, I also really do greatly appreciate it when they remember that my allergies. Like that's another love language for me, when someone remembers my allergies or makes me food with my allergies in mind. I think that's like so sweet. That's why when I say it's a red flag, like if I've already told you this and I've had to tell you over and over and over again, nah.
Oh my God, so that kind of ties into one of the green flags I wrote down.
Oh, really?
So one of my green flags I wrote down is people who remember what you say. For example, things I like, things I've done before, like even my name. Especially when I've only said it one time before. If I said like, oh, my favorite color is yellow, like literally in passing to someone I just met for the first time. And then the next time they meet me, they mention it again. They bring it up again. And I'm like, I'm always so surprised. I'm like, whoa, you actually remember I said that? I'm always surprised if people remember things I tell them. Yeah. Bonus points if they got it for me as a gift. For example, if I'm like, oh, I like Legos. Like if I just said it one time and then that person buys me Legos as a gift, I'm like, how do you remember that?
Yeah, but when I say your name, you hate that.
Okay, well, when you say hero, right, or blindfold,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh no, like people at Katsucon, like I didn't tell them my real name, but I introduced myself. I was like, hi everyone, like I'm hero, like, and then they all remembered my name later on. Someone was like, oh my gosh, like hero, blah, blah, blah. Like
that does pair well with what I was saying. Yeah, when someone remembers an important detail that can actually be like very severe to my health. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, you care. you respect my health.
Yeah, exactly. Your thing is like even more necessary to remember because it's literally like your health. Do you have any like beige flag?
I have two that I wrote down. Okay. One I called virtue signaling. An example of this is when unprovoked, they say, yeah, but I'm a nice person. I'm a nice guy. That makes me like, right. Why do you have to say that though? Like, actions speak louder than words, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
see.
I think because beige flags to me are like, I observe it and kind of question it rather than like, okay, I want you to go away now. I don't want you around. Yeah. So that one makes me kind of like, why you gotta say that though? Unprovoked too? No one asked. No one said anything. And the other beige flag I wrote, like, say they go to my favorite cafe or they go to my favorite like food spot and they don't bring me anything from there, knowing it's my favorite spot, that makes me kind of like, do you not think about me in these places? So that's kind of like a beige flag where I'm like,
What is your favorite spot so I can remember to go there next time and get you something?
There is this one place though. This is kind of more San Diego based, but that's okay. It's called the Taco Stand. It's one of my it to me, it's the best California burrito I've ever had in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of the best. So tacos, burritos, pretty like standard Mexican food joint in Southern California for sure.
Okay, never heard of it. But if I
Yeah,
ever go
it's
to
I think it's more San
California,
Diego.
I'll keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
it's like one of my
The
favorites. The
taco
California burrito is
stand.
so good.
When I said my green flag was people who remember what I said, what I say, that's my green flag because that's something I struggle with. That's why I'm always so surprised when people
Oh,
remember because I have a
yeah.
hard time remembering what other people say. So I'm always surprised when people do that for me. So I need to like write things
Another
down.
good place. Sorry, one more recommendation
Okay,
here.
yeah.
But this is for the people who aren't allergic to sesame and soy like I am.
Yeah.
Tofu House. That's the best tofu stew I've had ever. It used to be my go-to spot when I was
Is
like going
that
to
local
college.
or is that
I don't know if it's California only.
I have a tofu house where I live too, but I don't know if it's like the same thing.
Maybe it could be different. I don't know. Don't know if it's
Oh.
like northern.
Yeah, it might be a different. I feel like the tofu house is very basic restaurant name, so it may
Yeah,
be
there
some.
was a specific one that I used to go to where each time consistently was so freaking good. I used to get the dumpling tofu stew, and I would switch between mild or medium spice level. But wow,
That
oh
sounds
my
really good.
goodness. Yeah, before my allergies set in,
Oh,
it was
oh
amazing.
no! Wait, so you
Yeah.
can't eat anything from Tofu House anymore? They don't have
Well,
non-sesame.
tofu is literally soy, so I can't
Oh,
even
that's true. Wait, tofu
everything there
is
is
soy?
probably, yep, that's straight up soy.
Oh,
It's
okay. That's
okay.
so sad.
Everyone should
That's a
enjoy it
sad
for me.
life.
Dude, it's a struggle. I mean, I'm used to it now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was hard when I first got
Dang. I remember when you
diagnosed.
first got the allergy too. I'm like, that's so sad. So green flags. I didn't write down as much as you, so I only have one more.
Okay.
One of my green flags is when people make sure I'm included in the conversation. For example, when they're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
something and then they give me context, or if they turn around and ask me like, "What do I think about this?" or they ask for my
Yeah.
opinion about it. For example, so all those new people I met at Katsucon, they all know each other obviously, and I didn't know any of them. So I was walking around with these two girls, and they were talking about getting a gift for some guy, and obviously I had no idea who this guy was, and or they're just talking amongst and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, like who, like what would he like?" Or just trying to find something for him at the artist alley, and then one of the girls turned around because I was following him, like explaining to me, oh, she was like, "Oh, for context, like this guy is like oh this person, and then he really likes memes, he likes Full Metal Alchemist." Like she was just providing me the context for what they were talking about, even though
Mhm.
I wasn't the one searching for a gift for him. Like I was just walking around the artist alley with them. Like I wasn't doing anything for the person, or I wasn't part of the conversation. But she still turned
Yeah.
around for me and made sure to include me and make sure that I had the context for what they were talking about so that I didn't feel left out. So yeah, that was really nice. I like when people make me feel included instead of being left out.
Yeah. I know. That's so sweet because it shows like a level of consideration they have for others.
Especially when
Yeah,
like
that's
it
a good
doesn't
one.
matter to me at all. For example,
Yeah.
like I don't know the guy. I'm not getting a gift for him. Like they can talk about him. Like it doesn't matter to me. But she
Mhm.
still turned around and provided me context for what they were
Yeah,
doing.
one that I put down was respectful of your time and energy, but not to the point where they hurt themselves in the process. So this is like just like respectful and consideration of your time and energy, especially upon first meeting somebody. I think like asking for somebody's time, I think that should be valued, not necessarily in the way of like I don't deserve your time kind of energy, but in the sense of like I respect you and your time and I know I'm asking something of you, but I would love to get coffee with you whenever that feels best for you, or something along those lines. Um yeah, I think upon first meeting someone, showing that kind of respect is very nice. But in general, respectful of someone's time and energy. I put consistency. So someone who's just like consistently showing up the same way versus like, for example, if someone like love bombs and then later down the line they're not exactly that kind of person, then that's kind of like, okay, you're not showing up consistently. Secure in the way they handle all relationships. So this could be just like more like having a more secure attachment style, I guess, or understanding when they are seeing themselves like kind of reacting unhealthily and being like capable of taking a step back or taking accountability. Integrity is a big one for me. I'm realizing that level of honesty even outside of a friendship or relationship, like it bleeds into their whole life, that they show up with that kind of integrity. I find that to be super respectable, and I look up to people like that because I aspire to be on that level of just being integritous, if you will. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
an
for
actual
sure.
word.
That's super
And
important.
then a green flag is someone who's been in therapy. I think that's a green
Ooh.
flag. Like
Yeah,
someone
I
who's
think if
searching.
you go to therapy, it's so attractive because you're actively working on yourself. What's not to love
Yeah,
about
I
that?
think it's a good green flag where I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you're searching
Yeah,
for ways
that's
to
a good
improve yourself."
one. That's a really good
And
one.
that's all of them.
So, what are your love languages? And for me personally, my love languages are different in what I want versus what I give to other
Okay, okay,
people.
okay. Okay, my number 1 is acts of service, to receive acts of
Okay.
service. I find it to be very meaningful when someone thinks upon themselves to help me out with something. Um, Especially if I've never asked or never even considered it in the first place to ask for help. When someone else takes that initiative, I find it to be very, I don't know, even in friends and romantic relationships, family, like when someone takes that step, I'm just like, "Oh, that's really sweet." So that's my number 1. Number 2 is quality time, then gift giving or receiving, I guess in my case, gift receiving, words of affirmation, and then physical touch. I do, enjoy physical touch, but I'm not like a super I don't know. I don't think I'm a super touchy person. Yeah.
So, what I want to receive, number one is words of affirmation. I just like when people say things and it makes me happy. I like words. I love writing
Mhm.
words. I love taking in words. I love words. Number two is acts of service. Number three is quality time. Number four is gift giving or gift receiving. Number five is physical touch. I think physical touch used to be higher on my list, like before I got into a relationship. But now that I am in a relationship, I feel like I don't want it as much. Maybe because I
Mhm.
know I can get it whenever I want, so it makes me not want it as much. I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it used to be like two on my list, but now it's my last
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's very interesting. What about what you give out to other people?
What I give, the way I like did this was like, okay, I think I'm just going to think about what I'm good at giving, and I think my number 1 is quality time. I can give you all my attention in that moment easily. Like that's something I can easily do. I can be
Yeah,
very
like right
engaged in
now.
conversations. Yeah.
Yay.
And words of affirmation, I feel like I'm a very good complimenter. And I love writing letters. That's like my favorite thing to do,
Aw.
especially in my previous relationships. Like my go-to was writing poems for my partners in the past, or writing notes. Yeah, writing letters is one of my favorite activities. I love doing that. And then acts of service is number 3, physical touch is number 4, and I'm not gonna lie, gift giving's not my, like, strongest suit. That one has to be so much more intentional for me, so that's my number 5.
Oh my gosh, girl, you gave me twice the Blackpink stickers. What do you mean?
I know, but see, I have to come across these things and be like, "Oh, wait, this would be a nice gift."
Okay, so what I give is quality time. number 1. And number 2 is words of affirmation. So that's very similar to yours as well. Number 3 is physical touch. Number 4 is gift giving. And number 5 is acts of service.
Whoa. Nice.
So we're pretty similar, more similar in what we give out to other people versus what we want to receive.
Yes.
So do you have a preferred type? And I guess this means like romantic relationship. Yeah. What is your type?
So I have the nice preferred type and then the vain preferred type. So my preferred type is someone who's respectful, gentle, kind, funny, has integrity, intelligent, creative, strong, and skillful. That's all I wrote so far for that. And then for the vain, I didn't write that much actually, I just realized. But the vain one is they have to be pretty to me. And I prefer them taller than me. I do appreciate good hygiene, someone who cares about their appearance. They don't have to be super fashionable, but I do appreciate self-expression. But it's not like a full-on requirement for me. If I'm vain, it's a requirement.
Okay, so for my preferred type, I actually came up with this topic when we were brainstorming like topics for this episode because I found this note on my phone where I listed down like my preferred type from 2019. I'll just read it. I have like musts and prefers and bonuses.
Whoa,
so
okay.
Musts has to be a girl and Asian. Not too tall or too short, but I prefer a little shorter. I like long straight hair. This sounds a little like very specific, but trust me, it's not. I also like people who are easy to talk to and constantly available to talk to me, and a good listener. So those are my musts. So for things I prefer people who are sporty, people who are fit, people who dress well, and I also prefer people who are slightly outgoing, so more out, because I'm a huge introvert, so I tend to gravitate towards extroverts. I also like if they're cool, confident, passionate. They do what they want to do. They're not afraid to speak their mind. I also like that if they like the same thing I do, like anime and K-pop. And if they don't, it's okay. But as long as they're okay with me, like hopefully I can convince them to like them too. I like people who are funny and silly, people who laugh a lot, people who can be spontaneous. So if I'm like, oh my gosh, let's get ice cream right now, and they're like, okay, but not like always spontaneous, but it's okay if they're a little spontaneous. And people who are touchy and romantic and I wrote touchy back then because, like I said earlier, physical touch was higher up on my. Keep in mind, this is my note from 2019. I'm literally reading it on my phone right now. Romantic and smart, and then those are my prefers. And then my bonus is that I like if they have a deeper voice. They do what they want, not afraid to speak their mind. They're hardcore and rebel. I don't know why I wrote that. And really pretty. I don't know why I wrote this too, but I wrote bonus if they have stretchy cheeks and not bony cheeks. I don't know what that even means. I don't know what that even means. And then
that's cute.
I also wrote good singer and popular. And then I wrote bonus if they're a good cook.
Whoa. Okay, wait, you're thorough. Yeah. Now I want to be thorough. Okay. I love yours. Even in 2019.
Yeah, this is literally from December 1st, 2019 at 12:19 a.m. I wrote it.
That's so cute. I love that. That is so adorable. That makes me think now about my vein. One of my veins things. I do prefer someone who's a bit more sporty than me, but I'm not really into gym heads either. But it's not about so much the wanting to be super muscular kind of thing, but it's more about like they treat their body with respect.
Oh, yeah.
And want to be healthy.
Yeah, that's so true. For me, I just like abs.
That's also another one, yes. Yes. Oh, I want them to be devoted. I want them to worship me.
Yes.
They must worship me. That's like the only
but not too much where it's like stalkerish behavior.
Right, of course, in a healthy way.
And so if they have like a cardboard cutout of you in a shrine, they pray to.
Yeah, no.
Okay, let me just get rid of my shrine.
Oh, let's see. For me, it's about like as far as facial features go, I have to be attracted to their smile and the way they look through their eyes. I don't know how to explain that part.
Yeah, like
the
when,
way
if
they
they
look
smile
through.
with their eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, I like people who have a good smile.
Yeah, me too. I like expressive people. People who I don't know. I don't know if I'm super into somebody who would be stoic. I
Mm-hmm.
would prefer someone who can express their emotions outwardly or show that in their face, and that's something natural for them. I love charming people. I want a genuine charm rather than a show, a performative charm, if you will. If I'm talking more vain, if it's a man, I do love broad shoulders. If it's a woman, she can't do no wrong.
So real.
She can't do anything wrong. I do, you know what, though? Like, if we're going to talk physically for women, I don't know. All women are beautiful, so it's kind of hard to say. But there's just like, I've noticed that I will gravitate towards specific women and even men. Yeah, men too. Oh, they have to be funny. It's a must. They have to be funny. They have to be equal funny to me or just a tad lower.
What if they're funnier than you?
You know what? Maybe I can learn something from them. So maybe that can maybe that would be like a good thing actually.
But moving on, do you have any pet peeves for relationships, both romantic and platonic?
I do.
It's different from red flag. Oh, I guess pet peeves are more like a beige flag then.
They're like icks. That's how
Yeah.
they're just
okay.
icky.
Yeah. So what are yours?
One of them one I wrote down was chewing with your mouth open.
Oh my gosh, that's literally the first thing I wrote down. Oh my gosh.
That's the first thing I wrote down too.
Oh my gosh, no way.
I cannot with chewing with your mouth open.
Yeah.
Heck no.
If you can see it in their mouth, like the food. And
Oh, God, that drives me crazy.
A bit of it like drips out.
Ew. I have dated someone once who just smacks when they chew, and I just like twitch. I'm like twitching every time, every smack. Yeah. I don't want to hear it though. That's my thing. I don't want to hear it. Shush.
Yeah. Oh. One of my I was gonna say eating with your mouth open, but since you stole it, one of mine is flakiness. I think that's a very, very high pet peeve for me. I hate people who are flaky. Like, it's okay if you bail on me once, and obviously if you have an emergency, like family members in the hospital, like yeah, like obviously like go do that, right? But if you're flaky all the time and like it's always some excuse like, oh sorry, like I don't know, like just excuses, it feels like maybe you don't really want to hang out with me. And I prefer if you just say I don't want to hang out versus like come up with an excuse to not hang out, you know? And especially if it's something that, like I'm excited for. And if you don't give me a advance notice that you're gonna bail on me, if you tell me like 10 minutes before, I'm like, I don't like that. Like, if you know you can't make it, like tell me, like give me as much forewarning as.
Yeah, I agree to that. I'm not a fan of flakiness either. That part is like more on how well do you communicate.
Yes.
Okay. This is one that I wrote.
What?
I need to preface this. I didn't know how else to call this, so I wrote down what I wrote down. But like there's a specific I'm such a picky bitch, I swear. There's certain ways that people talk that just drive me insane. I can't. So like I can't do the whole frat boy type of talk, like jargon. I'm not gonna lie, I called it like super straight male jargon.
Okay.
Like very like let's go kind of like vibes or like
I see what you mean.
But also like just there's so
bro.
much yeah, like very hinting towards misogyny. I don't know. I couldn't date someone like that, and I have. I have dated someone like that where I'm like, oh, I'm icked. I'm icked out.
One of my pet peeves this is a big one for me too. When you're always on your phone, especially if we're hanging out. If we're actively hanging out together and you're on your phone, I'm like, okay, go home. You can text that person or go on Instagram Reels or TikToks at home. Like I said, quality time is a big love language for me, like I said earlier. And if we're hanging out together, I expect us to hang out together, not hang out together on our phones.
Real.
Like, I like people who, like, have their phone, like, face down on the table, so it's just, like, they're not.
Me too.
Or even just, like, away, in their bag or whatever. Don't be on your phone, especially if we're doing something, actively doing something. If we have this, I'm dedicated to hanging out, and you're on your phone. That pisses me off so much. And then you try to talk to them when they're on their phone. And they're like texting someone, and then you talk to them, and they don't even look up from their phone, and they're just like, yep, yeah. I know.
So yeah, so true. That's so true.
I know, yeah, exactly.
Wait, what? No, that's a good one. I'm also like, I want your undivided attention. No, literally. Okay, the Wretch Lurks literally said, if the person with 12-hour screen time can make time for you, then you can
Oh my gosh,
too.
that's me.
That's me.
Yeah, that's me.
I have like a 10-hour screen time right now. I say this with so much shame, but it's
Yeah,
just
me
what it is what it
too.
is.
Exactly. Like, yeah, just don't be on your phone if you're trying to have quality time.
Yeah.
It's rude and inconsiderate.
One that I have is talking over you or interrupting.
Oh, yes. Oh my god, that's a big one for me.
Yeah. And if they don't acknowledge it, like, so for instance, maybe they get so excited, they're like wanting to say what they want to say, but then they catch themselves and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, continue. That's fine. That's fine. But if it's like they totally disregard you, they don't even know, probably weren't even listening to what you were saying. No, no, no.
Yeah. I don't like that either. One of my is, I guess this kind of ties in what we were talking about earlier, but if you're not responsive and not communicative, I mean, I understand everyone's busy, but if you don't respond to my text message for like more than like 12, 16 hours, then I don't know. I feel like you're just ignoring me because are you really not on your phone for that long? I mean, it also depends on people. Like, I know I have a friend who is like a med student. I know they're busy. So, like, for them, like, I get it. But for other people, I'm like, I know you're not busy. Like, why haven't you responded to me for the past 12 hours? Like, are you just ignoring me? So,
Yeah.
I like people who are
You know,
responding.
I actually have a few friends, not a few, there's like 2 friends I can think of who are just terrible texters. Like, they will not respond probably until like a week later. But
Oh,
I
a
don't take
week? Yeah,
offense.
that's.
Yeah, I don't take offense because I already clocked it in my head what kind of texter they are. That I know
Yeah.
it no
Just-
longer has to be. I know they're not intentionally being like, nah.
yeah.
Well, and I also know that they have ADHD. They were diagnosed.
Yeah.
So it was
That
kind of
makes
like a,
sense.
it's
But
okay.
still a pet peeve of mine, especially if you're planning something. If you're like trying to plan to
Yeah,
hang
that
out with
part.
them, and then they're like, you're like, okay, what time should we meet next Thursday? And then they don't reply until the next day, and then you're like, okay, we can meet at this time. What should we do? And then they don't respond until the next day, and
Yeah,
then
no.
yeah, and then when the
That would
day
be annoying.
comes, they're like, oh, just kidding, I have to cancel. I had that happen to me before.
That's ridiculous, especially when you're planning something together and they just like don't engage further. Then that's when it's kind of like, okay, like I'm trying to schedule out my week. You need to let me know, or else I'm going to schedule something at that time.
Exactly. I know someone who like only responds once a day. So I feel like every message I send to them has to count because I know they won't respond until the next day.
I get that. A pet peeve of mine is overestimating themselves. So like
Oh,
for
interesting.
their own strength, for instance, like if they think they're like super strong, they can do something and then they fail to like actually be able to do that, or if they think they're a lot smarter than they actually are. Like to me, like a testament to someone who is intelligent is someone who can be like admit when they're wrong or understand that it's much more complex than what they think in their head. Like be open to other perspectives and whatnot. So yeah, when someone shows up in that way, it's kind of like, okay, all right, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. One of my pet peeves is this is for guys when you leave the toilet seat up.
Oh my god, yes,
Especially
dude.
at my house. If you come over to my house and use the bathroom, put it down. Like, you can do it at a public restroom, but not in my house, please.
Literally, at my old workplace, there would be someone who would always do that. We only have like designated bathrooms. It's not like a stall or anything, like it's like a bathroom room. And the toilet seat would either always be up or someone's pissing on the toilet seat. I don't know who's doing that. You gotta wipe after yourself, bro. That part grosses me out. You leave pee stains on the seat, clean that up yourself. I'm
Oh
not
my
cleaning
gosh,
up your
when
piss
you walk in the
stains.
bathroom and you see the pee stains like droplets like on the floor around the toilet seat and on the toilet seat. Like I mean, I'm not a guy, so I don't really know how it works, but other guys can aim well and clean up after themselves, so I'm sure you can too.
Dude, we can't even see our stream of piss. They can see theirs. So yeah, they can aim. There's no excuse. That part gets me so I'm fuming. I'm fuming because literally at my workplace, there was one time where there was literally piss all over the seat. Like
Oh
it
my
wasn't even a
gosh.
droplet. It was
Ew.
all over the seat. I
Ew.
had to
That's
humiliate
so bad.
someone. I had to just be like, okay, someone needs to clean that up because that's crazy. I'm not doing that. I'm not sitting on that.
Wild.
That's a
Yeah.
good one. I was like when I was thinking over the pet peeves and icks, there was one TikTok I saw that was like, this is not my pet peeve, by the way. This is just one that I thought someone said that was funny. But she's like talking about one time she was out with a man and they were at a bar. And you know how at bars, like you're generally sitting higher up. So you're like in a higher seating. So there was this one guy she was on a date with, and she saw that he was literally like kicking his feet sitting on a
Oh,
high chair,
interesting. Oh, that's a pet
and
peeve.
she said she felt icked out. I was the term ick.
Really?
That she felt icked out with him going like da di da di da with his feet hanging, which is
Wait,
so
that's
I
kind
feel
of
like
funny.
I think it's cute and funny.
That's kind of funny. I feel like I do that sometimes.
Same. I wrote doesn't pay for things. But maybe this is more of a preference. I don't know. On dates, I especially gearing towards dates, I would prefer if the person would pay. But I have been the girly that was like has done 50-50. But if someone's asking me on a date, why am I paying for that
Yeah,
if you're
especially
asking
if
for
they ask
my
you.
time?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something like that is kind of like, ugh, okay.
Another one of my pet peeves is when someone says, I told you so, especially if, I mean, I get that you gave me advice, I didn't listen,
Mhm.
and then you're like, oh, I told you so. Like, I know, you don't have to throw it in me
That's
again.
actually something that can actually get me so pissed off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The whole "I told you so" thing is like,
Yeah.
okay, are we 12?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's all the pet peeves I wrote down. So, do you have any other
I
ones?
wrote one, buying presents that's clearly meant for themselves.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I've ever had that happen before.
Like, it's
You're saying like if it's something like that they would enjoy, but not something you would enjoy, but they give it to
yeah.
you?
It's a lack
Oh,
of
okay.
consideration. Like, you're buying a gift for
Oh.
me, but it's more of a gift that you want.
So it's kind of like they're just thinking about what they would like and they give it to you, but they're not considering what, how they say like treat others the way you want others to treat you. But it's actually
Yeah.
treat others the way they want to
It's
be.
like, why let me get an example. Like, if someone bought me what's something that I would never like, if someone got me if someone got me tickets to, like, a rodeo or something, like
Yeah,
like,
makes
as a
sense.
birthday gift, for example, I got us tickets to a rodeo when that's not, like, something I've ever said I wanted to do, never mentioned. That's when I'm kinda like, "Oh,
Thanks. Yeah.
thanks."
Oh, I see
I
what.
think I think it's just like, I really appreciate thoughtful gifts. Like, even if it was just like, "We're gonna go to Tofu House because I found that they have a soy-free and sesame-free tofu stew
That's
that you
geared
can
towards
have."
you.
Yeah, that is more like, okay, you're paying attention to what I like and dislike and my allergies, for instance. There's much more meaning to that than, hey, here's something that's totally irrelevant to you
hmm
for your birthday. Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
that makes sense. Yeah, who would do that though? I don't know.
There's stories, trust me.
My God.
This
Yeah, that's so. What do you think of
one.
So I think ultimatums are. Well, I think first off, I think anything can be negotiated and or communicated with. So you shouldn't have an ultimatum if you haven't talked about it. You can't just spring out of the blue like you have to do this or we're gonna break up. I think everything can be. There's not a single thing that can't be communicated or worked on.
Mhm.
But despite that, I do think there is a point that maybe an ultimatum is necessary.
Mhm.
For example, I know this person who was with their fiance for a long time, and she knew she wanted kids from the very beginning, but her fiance wasn't sure, like he's very indecisive,
Mhm.
and he's like, I don't know if I want to get married. He was very indecisive about getting married.
Oh.
But she was like, I want to get married because I want to have kids. Like I'm on a clock. Women are on a clock to have
Mhm.
kids if you don't want to do like freezing your eggs. But the guy was like, I'm not sure, I don't know. Like he kept going back and forth if he wanted to have kids or not.
Yeah.
So she was like, if you don't decide by like in a year, then we're not getting. So I
Mhm.
think that is fair. Um, or for example, if someone has like very bad mental health and they refuse to go to therapy despite having the financial ability to go to therapy.
Mhm.
And maybe the other person is like, oh, you have to go to therapy because I can't handle it. I can't handle outbreaks. And the other person's like, okay, I'll go. But they never go. So maybe you need an ultimatum to be like, oh, you have to go to therapy or else I can't be in this relationship anymore. I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think ultimatum is necessary if the other person is too indecisive and keeps going back and forth. But I think an ultimatum is not necessary if you haven't communicated and worked on it.
I feel like my instinct answer was no, ultimatums are not healthy, period.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring up a good point when it can be necessary because in a way it's kind of like establishing a boundary where
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "Hey, if this doesn't happen or if I don't get this kind of treatment or whatever, then I can't do this anymore." That feels
Mm-hmm.
like a boundary
Yeah.
because you're warning them like, if this proceeds, then I have to take myself out of this scenario for my own health, for my own healthy sake. So that feels healthy for yourself in that scenario. I think otherwise, ultimatums would not be my first thing to use when
No,
communicating
it
with
should
them.
never be first path.
Yeah,
Never be
I
like, do
agree.
this or else, I'm gonna break up with you. It should
Yeah, I
only
agree.
be after the issue has been conversated, discussed, and worked on.
So true. I think we're both in agreement in this one. I agree.
I think this is a good segue into saying, what do you think makes a relationship fall apart?
I think usually when there's like a lack of communication,
Yeah.
um,
That's what I was gonna say too. I think communication is literally key. Not even for
yeah.
romantic relationships, but platonic
Oh
ones.
yeah, absolutely. And I think even
Mm-hmm.
just an honesty within yourself and to the person that you're partners with. I
Mm-hmm.
think because sometimes when I look back at my previous relationships, I think there are times I communicated in a way where that was like my unhealthy way of doing it without even realizing it was unhealthy until I got therapy. In the past, I look back to my own mistakes, and it usually was because I wasn't fully honest with myself because I was unaware of how I was feeling too, or just not avoiding that within me. And then once I became aware, you have to communicate, even if it hurts the other person or
Mm-hmm.
it hurts to make a change or whatever the situation is. But when you don't do so, I think that's when that changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. I think honesty creates another form of intimacy between two people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like much more vulnerable to be super upfront with where you're at.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm of the mindset that every relationship can succeed as long as both parties fully try just hard to make it work. As long as you always continue to put in the effort.
I get that mindset, and I think to a certain extent I also believe in that. But I think there also gets to a point where I don't know, a season closes or the book closes where it's just no longer aligned in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, maybe that's just my experience. It's hard to say because I feel like also my views of relationships are a bit skewed because all I've witnessed is a lot of heartbreak or splits and stuff like that. That when I see people who've been together for so long, I truly want to know what that looks like. Because I feel like someone like me, I've changed so much I feel like every year I'm a new person. I look back to the year before me and I'm like, who the hell was that
Yeah.
girl? What the hell? Where
Uh-huh.
I'm like, how can someone keep up with keep up with the amount of changes? So I don't know. That one's like, I don't know. As in
Yeah,
terms of longevity.
yeah, that makes sense. Like I've only ever dated one person before, so I don't really have experience of other relationships or even experimenting with
Mhm.
dating in general outside of popcorn. So,
I think like once if the communication style works with
mhm,
each other, then that's when it's
mhm,
super aligned. I think when
yeah,
it becomes very difficult to even just communicate, it's just an imbalance and it's just not meant to be.
mhm,
And so
yeah,
maybe it's more of a reflection of the relationships that I've chosen in the past where they clearly were not aligned with me and it just wasn't meant to be
yeah.
versus
That totally
like
makes sense.
someone who understands your communication style or wants to learn your communication style. I think, like you said, when it's both parties who are very willing
Mhm.
and very respectful about it and wanting to understand one another, I think that's when it's like an admirable, beautiful match. It's like choosing your hard. What's your the hard? Relationships aren't the easiest thing. So yeah.
So in a relationship, how would you split? I think if you're just getting to know someone, and I think 50-50 is good in the beginning, but I think when you become more serious about the relationship, it's like, like maybe you pay sometimes, maybe they pay sometimes, but you should like keep count very strictly and be like, oh, I paid this time, or I paid $24.19. So now you should pay the same amount as well. I think in a relationship, it's not like, oh, you pay, I pay, if you're in a serious relationship, you have to not have a I mentality, but a we mentality. Kind of like, oh, we're paying this for us. We're spending this money for us. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, because if you're dating someone, you're working together as a team, not individually. I mean, it's fine if maybe
Yes.
it's not like a serious, if it's just like a fling, if it's not
Mhm.
too serious yet. But if you're in a serious relationship, then you need to treat finances as like you're working together as a team, not as one or other. In terms of platonic relationships, I think it's kind of the same. For my platonic relationship, I mostly split like, no, we don't really split. Like we just pay for our own thing. But
Mhm.
sometimes they're like, oh, like I'm gonna get boba, like don't pay me back, or we just like expect that if I get boba for my friend, then maybe my friend will get boba for me. Like another time, like we just have this mutual respect, trust, and understanding for each other that it'll balance and equal out.
Yeah, it's not keeping count, it's
Yeah.
both parties will contribute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I agree to that. This one, I didn't really write a lot other than
Mm-hmm.
if I were to be, like, in a more domesticated partnership where we're together for a long time, maybe marriage kind of territory, that I would always have my own money, my own bank account, a shared bank account, and then they have their own bank account. So we have our own monies, and then we also have an agreed amount in which we put into the shared expenses, but also those shared expenses would be communicated and agreed upon to take the money out for whatever we're going to be using. But there's always our own money. So as far as like splitting things, I'm kind of under that same boat of just like I don't need to keep track of exactly, but like I do like you know, this my friend pays for something, but then later down the line I return that favor back to.
Yeah. Remember when you visited Popcorn and I, like 2 years
Yes.
ago, and then Popcorn was trying to pay for you, and then you like literally screamed in the middle of the mall because you didn't want her to. I don't remember the exact like what happened, but I remember like you were trying to pay for like the cream puffs, and then Popcorn
Yeah.
like attacked, or maybe you attacked her. I don't know, but you two were like fighting over who pays.
We were fighting about
Yeah.
who's gonna get their card to actually pay for it. And
Yeah.
I was trying to use embarrassment as a tool and a strategy
Bro,
in
I
order
know.
to
She
get
wasn't
her to
embarrassed. Popcorn
stop.
wasn't embarrassed at all. I was so embarrassed. Like, you literally, like, just, like, we were walking in the mall and you just screamed. And I was so embarrassed. Like, I was like, I literally, like, it was that face palm emoji. I was like, I don't know these people. I don't know these people. I wanted to walk away. I was so embarrassed.
I love that. It was just it's stuff like that though. Like it's not that serious, but it was
Yeah.
fun to be that serious about it. but I still wanted to pay regardless. So I know you've been with Popcorn for like over 5 years, but did you ever try dating apps or no?
My friends made a Tinder for me for fun in my senior year of college. This was before I dated Popcorn. Actually, this is when I was very sad after Popcorn rejected me. So my friends made a Tinder for me. But I don't know. I didn't like it because I feel like all their conversations were so superficial. I'm like, I can't get to know someone online. Like, I'm always scared in the back of my head that they're a serial killer or they're
Yeah.
like, someone they claim not to be. I don't know. I feel very sketchy about dating apps. So I literally used it for fun, not
Mhm.
serious. What about you?
My last boyfriend, we met on Tinder actually, and
Mm.
we were together for like 3 to 4 years. So, it worked in a way, but that was then. That was like early 20s Kayak. Current Kayak, I've tried dating apps and several different ones, and personally, that it's just every time I download it and I'm like, "All right, let's just see what happens." And then I also feel very like, nah, I don't like the
Yeah.
conversations, nor
Uh-huh.
do I feel gravitated in doing this like texting back and forth. I'm not a like huge texter. If I am a huge texter, it's because I already care about you. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, like, I'm not gonna be checking my phone a lot, but, like, if it's, like, a friend that needs me right now or, like, we need to talk about something, that's totally fine. But, like, I otherwise, like, with someone I don't know, it's hard to for me to click with that. So
Yeah.
I
I feel the
can't.
same way. Because
Yeah.
I feel like I need to know you in person in order to know
Yes.
you. Like, even my friends on my online community, like on Discord, are like, yeah, they're my friends, but I don't like, even if I know them for years through Discord, I'm like, I still don't know you. I know, like, online dating works for a lot of people. Like, my best friends in real life. Actually, I think all my best friends in real life, they all met their partners through dating apps. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
like the outlier in my friend group. So it definitely works. It's a good way to meet people for a lot of people, but it's just not for me.
I would also agree that I would rather meet someone organically or through mutual interests in real life versus on a dating app. I think if I've like talked to you and I've heard your voice or I've seen you on a screen in person, then it feels like I can be able to grow a connection from there. But if it's just text only and I don't know anything else about you other than the photos from your profile, it could be a bot for all I know. But once I know like you're a legitimate person, I've seen you like either you stream or you've seen a video of you or like heard your voice and stuff like that, then it doesn't get as like I think I could still form a connection. Otherwise, what I prefer and probably will lean towards from moving forward is in real life.
I totally agree. We're so similar.
I know we should be friends.
I know. For any of your romantic relationships, do you ever have like a timeline for like how long you want to start talking before you start dating and how long you want to date before you like in together and then like get
I think
engaged?
I'm more on the side of going with the flow. I wholeheartedly believe that whatever a couple decides, that's ultimately their decision. And if that's something they like, for instance, if they want to, take those next steps, then like, I don't know. I feel like having timelines feels too restrictive for me personally.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I'm just kind of like, you know what? Yeah, if you want to get married 6 months in, go for it, dude. I mean, there's people who work out when they're 6 months in. There's people who work out 5 years into their relationship. So, I mean,
It really
who am I
depends
to,
on the relationship.
yeah,
And on the people. And I know there's that like lesbian trope where like they move in
the
immediately.
U-Haul, the
Yeah, yeah,
U-Haul girlies.
U-Haul trope. Yeah. So for moving in, I'm like, okay, maybe it's fine to move in like, I don't know, 6 months? 3 months?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think moving in is fine 'cause it's like a roommate. Obviously, every time everyone's timeline is
For
different.
me, like I would rather know someone for years before making any marriage steps. But I don't know either because I've been in scenarios where I'm like, you know what? I would marry this person.
Yeah.
And that's probably not healthy.
Also, it's totally
But
okay. If
yeah,
you never want to get engaged or married either, if you just want to, be dating, and that's totally
the whole concept of marriage scares the shit out of me. But the party itself, the wedding itself sounds so fun.
okay. Yeah, I think For me, I like the concept of having a huge party, but I don't like the concept of having all the family members there because my parents are
Mhm.
divorced. Popcorn's parents are divorced. Like it's just a lot of family drama. But I
I
think if
get
it
that.
was like a bachelorette trip, that would be
And
fun.
the honeymoon. Honeymoon's
Oh yeah, that.
but I'm also not in a rush. I think that's my thing. I'm not in a rush to make those moves. I value independence a lot. And so,
Sure. And honestly, that's props to you because this kind of ties into our like next topic. I think that like even if find a relationship, like you're lonely and find someone today, and if you were not comfortable in being with yourself, like the whole premise of loving yourself, giving yourself gratitude, patience, being comfortable with being by yourself.
and there was a long time where I felt like scared to be alone and would not use, but I guess in a sense, yeah, like always want to hang out with someone basically because I wanted someone to distract me from my aloneness. But now I love being alone. On Valentine's Day, I had the option to hang out with some family members or even my one of my closest friends invited me to hang out on Valentine's Day. I shut all of them down cuz I wanted to be alone.
I love
I
that
wanted
for you. I mean, you just
I
had a
wanted to
cute
have a
little
spa
Valentine's
night. I
Day.
literally did like my own spa night and then like cooked myself dinner and then had a movie night. And that was like, it was chef's kiss. I loved it
Gosh,
so
I love
much.
that.
There's like a certain part of this whole journey that I've been on lately where I was pushing others, not pushing others away, but just not open to the idea of forming other relationships than the ones that I have already. But I think now I've kind of gotten to the more headspace of opening up to further connections, whether that's friendship or romantic, whatever it ends up being. I feel a lot more open to that than I did before. So I don't know if that means like I'm becoming more solidified with myself, being okay with my boundaries on like, okay, I know when I want to be alone and I'm going to vocalize that now versus before maybe I didn't know how to do that really well. What about you? What are your views on that?
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I've struggled with being alone, especially as an only child. Best friend was my mom. So I was pretty lonely growing up. I really wanted intimacy because, I have friends, but it's not the same. So it took me a long time to find happiness for myself. Even now, as in a relationship currently, I'm still working on finding compassion and love for myself and being
Yeah.
comfortable with being alone and finding joy in being alone. Like, maybe that's investing time into my hobbies, making myself dinner, putting on a TV show, little things like that. I think it's super important to love yourself and finding comfort in your own company.
I agree to that because if we're gonna get more big picture here, technically the only person who's gonna live day to day the way you're living is
Yeah.
yourself. So you might
Yep.
as well make that a better experience for you. And so I think that's kind of because I mean my childhood is similar to that too. I mean, I have had step siblings and half siblings, but for the most part, I was raised more towards it being an only child. And I was alone most of my life. And I lived my day to day life alone or going to school. That's like essentially what was my day to day. I think I learned how to entertain myself too. My strategy was let's just distract myself and do other things. And so that's the way that I do it. But mine's the opposite, where like I need to learn how to slow down and just like be with me and being okay with that versus trying to take any stimulation that I can to distract me from me.
Yeah, for sure. And you're doing such a great job of it.
Thank
So proud
you.
of you.
I'm proud of you too. It
Thank
takes
you.
work, intentional
Yeah,
work
for sure.
too.
Like all of this, like everything we've talked about definitely takes and as long as you're actively working towards it.
So real. Wow. What a good episode. I love this conversation, like just talking about relationships. It's just so real. Everyone has relationships on some level, whether that's romantic, familial, friendship.
Humans are social creatures. You can't live a life without having any relationship unless you were born in the mountains and raised by wolves. I don't know, but most 99.9999% of humans have relationships.
I think that concludes our episode. Yeah, if you like our episode, please give us a like. We typically stream every other Saturday and post every other Saturday. So look forward to any episodes on twitch.tv/Koolkayak and twitch.tv/Blindfoldhero. And until next time, my friends,
Bye,
bye,
cutie.
cutie.